Welcome to a very special milestone. This is the 100th episode of Embracing Marketing Mistakes. To celebrate hitting triple digits, we're going to be doing something a little bit different today. We've dug really far back into the archives to bring you the ultimate countdown of the most shocking, jaw-dropping and unforgettable marketing missteps we've ever heard on the show. So we've got live TV disasters, from boardroom torture to astronomical financial wastage. These are the top fuck-ups that have left our guests reeling. So sit back, relax, and let's get into the definitive leaderboard. But before we do all of that, William, we have had, 100 episodes. How does it feel? Who's been your favourite? Which one's your favourite episode, if I ask you?
Yeah, I mean, it's been great, hasn't it? Every guest has had an amazing story to tell. And I must admit, some of the fuck-ups people share are just incredible, aren't they? And they, some of them, I must admit, I feel like I could have made that similar mistake, and there's certain ones we're going to talk through where they kind of ring true with what I've done in my career, but some of them are just wild. And it's hard to pinpoint as a single guest. I must admit, one of my favorite episodes is Ken Robertson from Paddy Power, who just eloquently talked us through some of the wild stunts he's done over the years for Paddy Power, which I'm not sure you'd have got away with half of those today. Greg Matusky was brilliant, calling in from the States, and he just had some brilliant anecdotes. In fact, one of his mistakes we're going to focus on, but really it's hard to pinpoint a single guest, and there's just been so many fantastic stories.
There has, and I can reveal today an absolute exclusive that we've not, the Chris and Will show, have not revealed on this podcast. And William, I haven't prepped you for this, but it's because I remembered it yesterday. And I thought, how the hell are we running a marketing mistakes fuck-up show for the last 3 years? It's got to number 1 in the UK. Thanks to everyone that's listening. We're absolutely thrilled with that. And we've never mentioned the... You're going to love this. We've never mentioned the social media strategy workshop that we ran in Harrogate about 9 years ago. Now, do you remember the one I'm referring to?
I thought you were going to reference another fuck up there. So I'm pleased you've mentioned that one. Yeah, that was in the early days of Prohibition, wasn't it? I think we worked with we worked with quite a prestigious financial brand, and we were doing a workshop, and I won't mention who they are. We were doing a workshop with them, day-long strategy session. We had the C-suite in the room, brainstorming, flip chart, taking notes. I think even the chief exec came in at one point, top brass, a chance to really get some kind of FaceTime with them. Really good workshop. Our job was to basically take notes, interrogate everybody, and then come back with a strategy. And we had some amazing conversations, etc., etc. Went really well, didn't it? Drove home, looked at the notes a few days later, and then started to write the strategy up. But
except that didn't happen, did it?
Yeah. So the flip chart. We must have had 10. We must have had.
For the listeners, we had about 15 people in the room, and we decided to take 2 roles. So I think I was like speaking to the. So interviewing them essentially and pulling out the ideas, and then you were like scribing, and we were sort of tag teaming to do the to run the session. You were like taking the scribe, and you took away the notes, which were on one of those big easel notes pads we'd bought especially for the training session. We'll put them in his car. And on Monday we got back to the office, which was in Headingley, part Leeds, and I said, great. Can you go get the notes out of your car, and we'll write up. I'll get to work writing up all the notes and the strategy, basically. And he went, yeah, great. And off he went to the boot of his car, opened the boot, and you'd done something over the weekend. You'd had Wellingtons in it and all sorts of kit. You'd been doing something. I can't remember what happened.
Yeah, I don't know where it had ever gone. Anyway, it wasn't in there. And then we asked the client. I think we had to ask the client. In a really vague way, have I let, I'm just checking I've not left anything in the room. And they're like, no, nothing was left in the room. So we then had to develop a really comprehensive strategy based on about 20 pages of flip chart notes purely from memory.
Yeah.
But we absolutely nailed it in the end, didn't we?
Yeah, well, I remember what I did was, after sheer panic, we had an agenda, and I went to the agenda and just remembered everything that I could remember when we were talking through, and I was imagining the scenario of talking to people. which is unbelievable because I haven't got the best memory. I had a solid 1990s in Hacienda in Manchester. So my memory is not the best, and anyone in the creative sector will know that. But I managed to remember 90% of it. And I remember you turning around to me and going, this is your best work ever. Because I literally could remember the conversations that we'd had about each point on the agenda, which is good because I wasn't writing the stuff down. I was just talking and making sure that we stuck to what we were talking about.
We got away with it, didn't we?
We sent it off. And the irony of this was we'd spent all day working on it, try and did it from memory, got it right, and emailed it to the client. And they said, this is great. Thanks very much. And we never, they used it. And that was that. So we must have done a great job. Maybe we just cut the rubbish out. I don't know. But let's never do that again. Anyway, that was an exclusive. So without further ado, then let's get into, it was meant to be a top 5, this, but actually I've got 6 because we've got 100 and there's loads and loads of episodes. So for those of you who have not listened before, we interview people every other week, something like that, a guest, and then we'll interview them about their expertise, what they know, and then also they'll tell us a bit about 1 or 2 mistakes that they've made in their career and what they've learned. Some of them are really, really shocking. Some of them have been really enlightening, and some of them are a bit sad. Some of them are a bit funny. So Will and I have gone through the data. We've gone through the YouTube views and the listenership, and these are the top 6. So we'll start at number 6. So the number 6, we're going to kick off countdown at number 6. If you've ever felt a cold sweat after pressing send on an email campaign, Zohi Mustafa's story will give you nightmares. Thanks to a rogue software update, he accidentally spammed his most high-value VIP contacts, including major financial institutions and his own CEO, hundreds of times in just a few minutes.
So, Chris, let's watch the clip.
HubSpot, you did an amazing nurtured campaign, but it went horribly wrong. Tell us all about it.
Yeah, so again, I'm supposed to be a HubSpot expert, certified, etc., taking quite a few of the tests. And, I guess you maybe become a little complacent when you've been used. I think that was that particular role. That was probably my 8th HubSpot build. So 8th time of using HubSpot with a different company. And launching a campaign, there was 1,000 or so of our sort of high value, high powered contacts. Major brands. Some of these were like personal contacts of the CEO of the organization I was at. And I was setting up a nurture campaign. We were launching a new service, I think, one of our sort of AI offerings and stuff like that. And I set up this really intricate, I don't know if you've ever used HubSpot, but there's this workflow section.
Yeah.
Or you mentioned you use it. There's this workflow section where you can set up, automated nurture campaigns and so on. Again, being too clever for my own good, I set up lots of complex branches and if-then statements, and if this person does this, then do that, and etc. So it was already quite complex. And then HubSpot has this auto-enroll feature that will automatically enroll contacts into a campaign. I, of course, switched that off because I had subsequent multi-level branches of conditions of send this email if this happens and send this email if that happens. And I thought, I'm fine, everything will be good. Unfortunately, a HubSpot update went out, which meant that the software changed literally overnight, and there was an additional setting to unenroll people.
Yeah.
I didn't know about that, so I just left it on. What ended up happening was 1,000 contacts received 450,000 emails in the space of about an hour. So each person,
in how long? What time frame?
An hour.
In less than an hour. It literally went into a loop.
Yeah.
Luckily, I found out about it in that hour. Otherwise, it would have been higher. But yeah, this went out to major brands, and you're getting all these pissed off emails coming back to me and my CEO, the ones who were like kind of, and this, again, I'm talking like major financial institutions in the city. And it was just mortifying. It was like the most horrible moment in my marketing career, I think, to date. And I've made tons of other cock-ups, but this one was really up there with screw-ups.
I think if I received 450 emails in an hour from one person, I would be a bit pissed off, you're right. I don't even know how many that is a minute.
Yeah.
I need to do the maths on that. That's a lot.
I suppose the only saving grace...
Yeah, I was getting them seconds.
The only saving grace is there you could just potentially try and totally blame the software.
Oh, yeah, definitely blame the software.
It's like there is, a little bit of an out. Look,
I can see an email going out saying, sorry, we've had a slight... software glitch, because I received an email marketing piece last week and it said, "Hi, first name."
We've all been there.
We've all
on
done
our
that.
old media list.
Everybody out there, everybody listening to this has done that. Hi, first name, or hi, company name. Everybody's done that. If you haven't, you're a liar, I think.
To be fair, my boss then said, you've got to send an apology email. And I was like, oh, God, I don't want to send any more emails. But I ended up sending the apology email. And the majority, 99% who replied, were very gracious and said, look, it happens to all of us.
Yeah, it does.
And they felt my pain and empathized. But,
I think an apology is worth a lot.
Super embarrassing.
A personal apology is worth a lot because, sometimes you just catch people at bad times. Like, we've all unsubscribed from stuff that we don't want because there's so much email crap out there. But everybody's done it everybody's done that in marketing. They've sent an email to the wrong list or BCC'd the wrong person. Or we've all done it.
I think when I heard that for the first time round, my blood ran cold.
I mean, he was very, very honest. To send 450,000 emails in under an hour to your most important customers for that amount of money. I mean, they were really high-value customers. Pretty shocking. And in fact, Zoe's entire episode was full of stuff that he shared, including they hired a PR agency and they didn't get any coverage for, I think it was 6 months. I was like, how did you not fire them? I said, if we don't get any coverage for the first 8 weeks, I start to panic a little bit because coverage is not guaranteed, obviously, but you can't go 6 months without any coverage. It was one of the big PR shops. At number 5, we've all made typos in an email. But what if your one typo was printed in giant multicolored letters on a 6-figure exhibition stand right in the middle of London's Excel Arena? Rachel Massey, one of our clients, found herself in this exact nightmare on day one of a massive trade show. Her strategy for dealing with a missing T in the word software when she worked for a software business, while the company's chief executive walked around the show, was agonizing survival mode. So, shall we get into the clip and let's hear what she's got to say about it? This is more fun. I'm going to take it easier. Tell us about the time that you did an exhibition stand and what happened, because you gave us a few details.
Well, yeah, you want marketing mistakes, and I mean, there's been a lot. We've all had a lot, haven't we?
Oh, yeah.
But this one particularly sticks out because when I think about it now, I can still feel the anxiety and I can still feel the dread of watching what unfolded. So we were at Excel in London, where I'd spent a lot of time over the years. And it was quite early in my career at one particular organisation, and this was a big stand build. This is, I don't know, probably 100 square metres stand. Big.
And the investment is huge for those, isn't
it? Six-figure stuff.
Wow.
And it's in the middle of Excel, 4 sides.
What colour is it?
It's multicoloured.
Multicoloured.
And we'd done all the messaging inside the stand. So we'd got... we'd signed all that off. We'd got that down pat, great. But I hadn't really thought about the signage. I had really thought about it. It was standard signage around the edge of the stand. So it was just our strapline brand. Maybe overlooked that slightly. So this is day one, opening the stand. It's all going great. And the guy, someone came up to me and said, the guy at the stand opposite wants to chat. So I said, oh, okay. So I went over to this stand, and he's got another big stand. He said, I don't know how to tell you this. He said, but you've missed T out of software all over your stand.
So not just once?
No, it's all over.
What, so someone couldn't spell software when they wrote the...
Someone.
I don't know who it was,
who's chief?
It was something that was overlooked because it wasn't. This is standard message. This is standard stuff that goes. So software. I never even thought. So it said software. So this was all over this stand and
software.
the second day, usually if this happens and you get some sort of spelling mistake, you can send it to the printers, you have to throw money at it, and you can get it sorted. But this is day one. And this is in London, so chief exec's coming to see the stand. There's a lot of important guests coming to this stand. This is a big showpiece. So I had to make the decision. So I thought, right, this has been around now for sort of all morning. No one said anything about a guy that's looking at this stand his whole time. Do I fess up? Tell people what I've done? Or do I just think, no one else has noticed it so far? I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to pretend I don't even know. And we're just going to continue. And that's what I decided to do.
What time of day was it that you heard that there was a spelling mistake and it was software everywhere?
It was probably about 11 a.m. So the show had been open like a couple of hours.
And how many people do you think is in the show?
Thousands.
Thousands, okay. And
plus the whole leadership team of the
plus
company.
The whole leadership team of the company. All the team that were, I mean, there was, I don't know how many stand staff, 20, 30.
And how long was the show?
3 days. So for 72 hours, I just sweated. And I was just, the anxiety was high because every time someone said my name, I just was like, what? Because I thought they were going to say, have you noticed that?
What level were you here? Did you have bosses there as well?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
But what,
I
couldn't do anything about it. So I
Did
just
you position
thought,
yourself
no one has noticed it.
In front of the word every time?
It was everywhere. I couldn't position myself.
And were they only using this stand once and then that was it? They were going to bin it after that?
Unfortunately, that is what happens with stand builds. Yeah, you just build them and
then they take them down.
Unfortunately. But at that point, they might be a little more environmentally friendly these days, but that's what used to happen, yeah.
I think the moral of this story is that nobody reads stands.
That's a very cynical,
well, I think
nobody bloody reads them.
What I did know, because I'd written that word a lot in my time at this
software.
Yeah, that I had done it. It's a mistake that you do when you're typing a lot. So I thought this is a mistake that people don't pick up on. I've not picked up on it before in other certain things. So I knew that it was a mistake that was common, and I just had to just go with it.
So when the clock struck 5 o'clock,
no, not very much
on the last day, were you just incredibly relieved?
I've never. Do you know what this is? No one knows that. I've never ever told anyone.
An exclusive.
I love this. I absolutely love it. We're clipping that bit. I mean, it's the fact that you've spent the whole time. Basically, you did the ostrich approach, which is you buried your head in the sand.
I buried my head in the sand.
I'm just gonna grin and bear it.
But this was quite early on in this. This was a big piece. I couldn't do it. I just couldn't. No, if anybody else had noticed, I would have been going, I can't believe it. But no one did, and I got away with it.
It would have been so insincere.
There was me and the guy in the stand across, that's all that knew.
Your fake surprise. Really?
How did nobody notice? How did nobody notice that I've
You'll be surprised that word particularly. When you just glance at it, you just think, it says software because that's what you expect it to say.
There's certain words, isn't there, when you see like grammar books and things where they do it and they take a letter out and you can't notice it.
No, they do it. There's a lot that happens. Well, maybe that is, but
we need to do the research into that.
Is there some retired chief exec listening to this now?
Let's hope not.
I think we've, not to that degree, we've all done that.
And I say you must have, in PR, you must have done spelling mistakes all the time.
I've told this story before. So my second job actually in PR, I worked in London. And as an exec, starting out, we worked in tech PR. And as an exec, part of the admin of the job was basically printing all the press releases out, stapling them, and folding. We actually got trained on how to fold them into 3, so they fit perfectly in an envelope. Then we'd go down to the mail room, and you'd get all it was 250 of us.
Mail room.
You'd get
That's old school, isn't it?
Exactly. You get like 15, 20 of us at all the same level, and we'd be like a chain, and you'd be folding up press releases and putting them into envelopes. Then you'd run them through. Get it? The Franken machine. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember the Franken machine.
They were quite fun because they'd fly through the Franken machine. Anyway, so I remember being specifically like 83 press releases in of a press release that we'd written and the team had written. And on sorry to all clients listening right now, second paragraph in, I saw typo, like a small typo, and I was like, did exactly what you did. I was like,
pretend it's not that.
I'm going to have to go upstairs because this wasn't the days of being able to it's not digital, is it? You've got to go upstairs, change everything, reprint it all out, come all the way back down, and we missed the post. So I just went with it with a typo.
What was the typo?
I can't remember. It was probably software. Because we worked in tech.
Probably.
My first ever job in PR. This isn't the other story I told you earlier. I'm not going to tell that story. I had to mail out 5,000 companies, again, traditional mail out, asking for sponsorship. And it said, "Dear colleague, blah, 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 blah." And on the last batch that I was sorting out, I realised it didn't say "Dear colleague," it said "Dear college."
Oh, no.
But again, head in the sand, carried on.
I think that might be a software one, though. I think people might just see that and not actually realise that one.
Yeah.
And they get the gist, don't they?
You get the gist.
Yeah. It's not as bad. It's not as bad as...
Maybe that's what I should have told my chief exec. You get the gist.
Well, everyone knows what you're trying to say, don't they?
You get the gist. Yeah. It's not going to work in a branding meeting, though, is it?
I must admit, I feel for Rachel there. I've worked with Rachel for years, and she's an absolutely brilliant marketer. And that's just a mistake. And luckily, she got away with it. And I must admit, when I started one of my early jobs in PR, I did something similar. Not on the level of that, but I had to do a mail out to potential prospects, and I mailed out maybe 1,000 people, old school, sticking letters in an envelope. And on the last letter, I realised instead of saying "Dear colleague," it said "Dear college." And I didn't tell anyone and just got on with it, which I think was a little bit like what Rachel did.
Yeah, but I mean, the fact that everybody could see at this trade show, and I don't even think anyone said anything. Software, maybe maybe people just, it's one, like when you see a type, there's things that you see and you just don't see a typo because your brain is guessing the rest of the word. Maybe that was it. Anyway, she managed to ride it through. I bet they never used that exhibition stand again, though. Right,
they cost a fortune as well, don't they? Exhibition stands, an absolute fortune.
Yeah, a lot. It was a lot, and a lot to place it as well. So coming in at number 4, imagine securing a massive live TV interview for a wholesome religious business founder, only for the host to suddenly ask about her walking away from the devil. Greg Matusky, a friend of the show, watched in sheer horror as his PR plan disintegrated into a live national TV scandal. Let's watch the clip, hear it in his own words, because this is brilliant. Enjoy.
Years ago, as a young man, I get a call. There's a new business in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Lancaster, Pennsylvania is the epicenter of the Amish sect. And a business has found a recipe for a hand-rolled soft pretzel. And they need PR because they're franchising. So I get on my horse and I go out. And I meet with the marketing director, which just hired. And I was joking about my horse, but I go and
I just had a great vision of you just getting on your horse.
It's a vision, yeah.
Right. He's from the regular world, and he sits me down. He goes, "Now you're going to meet Ann Byler, who owns the business." And Ann's story is simple. She's very religious. She's a former Amish person. She didn't join the sect, right? Very connected to the community. And she's an evangelistic Christian, evangelist, right? Which is the path often for those who leave Amish. And she's going to meet with her. If she likes you, you're on board. So we go to the meeting. We talk a little bit, and this is a whole different world because the Amish never want to come forward, right? They're not evangelistic. They don't want you to join them. They don't have any kind of propaganda. They're just a quiet people, confident in what they believe, and they don't really care about the rest of the world. And so she's explaining, I really don't want this. I don't want to be, they believe that the nail that sticks up the highest is knocked down the hardest. So, I'm a PR guy, and I'm supposed to promote her. And I go, well, Ann, we'll be sensitive to that. And she's like, great. So then she goes, all right, we have to go to lunch. So I figure we're going to go to a restaurant somewhere. We get in our cars, and she takes us down this country lane on a farm where her mother, who is Amish and still lives on the farm, has been making us what they call supper, is their lunch, all day long. And there's all these Amish. I mean, it was some of the heaviest food I could not consume all this. There were carrots and butter, and there was beef, and there was poultry, right? So I come on board, and she calls me in and says, I have a favor to ask before we get started. And I go, sure, what? She goes, I would like to appear on the 700 Club. The 700 Club was run by a guy named Pat Robertson, who was a big-time Christian evangelist who ran for president of the United States, right? And this show was over the top, but it was her dream, and she was going to come out with her story. Her story is that she was working in a booth one day, and she got a flour delivery, and it was the wrong flour, and magically, spiritually, this was the perfect ingredient. It made the perfect pretzel, and there were lines out the door and people wanting to franchise her business, and she was touched by God at this moment. That's her story, right? So, and that's, the purpose of the 700 Club.
It's a nice story as well.
Oh, that's great, Ann.
It's a wholesome story,
right.
Isn't it?
So I go, yeah, I think I can do that. I mean, everything seems to align. That's what they cover. Pat Robinson's running for president. I have no doubt he'd like to get into your checking account. So I think I can make this happen. So sure enough, we secure an appearance on Pat Robertson, and I go down, and she has her whole crew come down in a black van because the Amish, those who've left the Amish don't even show chrome on their cars sometimes. We go down, I'm in the audience, and beforehand she goes, now, Greg, I have to tell you, I'm going to give testimony today. And I go, testimony? We didn't talk about that in media training, but I figure that's her telling her story. I go, well, you have a great story. She goes, no, I'm going to give testimony. I have no idea what this means, right? So I'm sitting in the audience, and I'm all excited. This is a big score for me. I'm a young guy, and I'm all full of myself. And so they come back to the show, and Pat Robinson does a preview before the commercials. And he goes, next up, a miraculous story of a woman who was given a recipe that has launched an empire and how she walked away from the devil. I'm like, the devil? What's the devil? There was no devil? I'm looking around like, what's the devil? Right? So they come back and they start the story. And she tells, I've been very fortunate. God gave me this recipe for hand-rolled soft pretzels. I have 100 franchises now. And he goes, that's a miraculous story. And now tell us about how you walked away from the temptation of the devil. And I'm like, the temptation of the devil has no place in this story, right? So Anne goes on to tell the story of how she had moved to Texas and become involved with a church. And that church had a pastor who she had an affair with when she was married, and he defrauded the entire parish of everything they had. And I'm sitting there like, this was my shot, and it's totally destroyed. Like, why? You didn't know why? So she comes up after the fact, and she goes, how'd it go? I go, Anne, I thought you did good, but the whole backstory of the defrauding parishioners and sleeping with the pastor, we didn't. What? And she looks at me and she goes, Greg, I'm going to tell you something. 5 years from now, a publication like Forbes will come to call on me, and this is public record, and they will think they have something salacious. And I will say, oh, that's an old story. I've already told that story. You should watch the Pat Robinson episode. So I learned that she took the air out of the balloon and protected herself, right? Where I couldn't even put it together at that point. So is that a fuck up? It was on my part because I didn't know what she was doing, and I didn't understand the value, right, of putting bad news out sometimes. And I think that's the takeaway, that if you put bad news out, it can never be used against you in the future.
Yeah,
and that's what I learned from Annie Ann's hand-rolled soft pretzels.
She sort of schooled you in how to do PR there. She sort of took the worst thing possible and shared it first. So nobody can ever come back, like you say, and get her again.
Brilliant move. And it's a hugely... I mean, I was looking up the company. There's something like 1,200 franchises now, isn't there, globally? We've
had a couple of dodgy PR interviews before, Will. We've had clients that haven't listened to despite the best media training we can provide, sometimes a client just feels very comfortable and decides to go slightly rogue. But not as rogue as that. What did you make of Greg's story there?
Yeah, very, very entertaining. I mean, the whole podcast with Greg was brilliant, wasn't it? He's such a great raconteur, and he had numerous other... It's worth a listen, that episode. He's got loads of other stories about stuff that has just gone horrifically wrong. But yeah, that is sort of next level client going rogue on the biggest possible stage, wasn't it? So yeah. Brilliant story, and a great fuck up for sure.
Yeah, and the fact that she just decided to share the fact that she was to share that on national TV was just brilliant. I can't imagine what, and no prep. And then in actual fact, he said that her strategy might have won the day, even though he was so scared of it at the time.
It was a masterstroke in the end, wasn't it? It's a masterstroke for her to kind of clear the decks and get that out of the way. So it was very interesting, but understandably very scary for him at the time. Stood in the green room watching it happening.
So in at number 3, we have the waterboarding pitch from a friend called Andrew Block. We all know that pitching can be high stakes and standing out is crucial, but how far is too far? PR guru Andrew Block thought some pitch theatre would win over a video game client. So his idea was live waterboarding a member of his own staff in the boardroom. Spoiler alert, they didn't win the business. Let's hear from Andrew about what they did to get a bit of pitch theatre to try and win a client. So what's the biggest fuck up you've made in a pitch? Because trust me, I've made a few.
I've made a lot. I've probably chosen to sort of throw them out the window. I mean, look, essentially any pitch you don't win is a fuck up. But sometimes you can put in your best effort and you get beaten by someone better, or culturally you weren't the right fit. I think, where I've had disastrous pitches is really where we have probably not been prepared well enough and we've winged it a little bit. Or where, I'm always a fan of like a combination of style and substance. So you have to have the substance. You can't just sort of bring on the flair and charisma without anything behind it. But I always felt, you want to do that thing to be memorable. When a client's seeing 4 or 5 agencies, you want them to remember you. And actually, from the very early days of Frank, with that in mind, we decided we'd always have memorable boardrooms. Because, you go into a meeting room and it's the same as another one. So our very first office, we actually had an ambulance as our boardroom. It was a real ambulance that we bought from
as you do.
The Caledonian Road, stripped out, spray painted, boardroom table inside. That was good, but it was quite small. And I remember our first big pitch, sort of a year into the agency, and suddenly like 15 clients turned up, and it was a disaster. We obviously didn't have aircon or anything. We had this little rubbish sort of fan that didn't do anything, and there was like 15 people squashed in the back of an ambulance that, well, it wasn't designed for that in the first place, but it certainly wasn't designed to hold that amount of people. And then when we moved offices, the next boardroom was a beach, and the thinking behind that was, you're most relaxed when you're on a beach on holiday with the sand between your toes, and that's where you're most creative, when you're sort of switched off.
Was there actual sand on the floor then?
Actual sand, yeah. I mean, I'd love to say we shipped it in from the Maldives. I think it was from a builder's yard at Wicks or something. It's like industrial sand. But Graham and I, as guys, hadn't really thought through the fact that women don't really want to take their shoes off. And, as I said, this wasn't like that sort of beautiful white sand. This was a bit sort of yellow and
toxic builder's
within
sand.
About a month. It had pen lids in it, staples, all sorts of things you'd find in the sand. Yeah. That was, and then we sort of moved on. The next one was a bedroom, and again it was about this feeling of relaxation, massive room, beds, and that was fine actually, no major issues with that. There's a few stories that aren't suitable for this podcast that I could tell you about what went on in that room. For another day, for a beer. The last sort of one that we built, it was like a fairground with waltzers. So you got into these waltzers, and they actually spun round. They were proper fairground waltzers. And yeah, we did have a client who was a bit on the large side and didn't fit into the waltzer. And I think that was a pitch loss before we'd even opened our mouths. So that's all about the environment and being memorable. And, no one's going to forget you were the agency with the waltzer, you were the agency with the bedroom, with the sound, with the ambulance. And that always really worked for us. It's about being memorable. But in terms of the actual pitches, I mean, I remember even pre-Frank, there was a pitch where it was actually my boss at the time. And she was so nervous, she physically vomited on the table, which wasn't a good look.
How do you recover from that?
That's memorable, though, Andrew.
Yeah, that was memorable. It was memorable for all the wrong reasons. I mean, they normally are for the wrong reasons. We did one for a computer game client, and it was a war game we were pitching for. I can't actually remember what the game was, but we thought it'd be good pitch theatre to waterboard someone live in the pitch. And that didn't go down particularly well. We didn't do a dress rehearsal, and we didn't kill an employee. That would have been really memorable, but we did probably cause him more suffering than we were intending to do with our pitch theatre, and I don't think any of us would forget that, and we lost that pitch.
That was going above and beyond. That's going above and beyond a bit of torture.
That's probably lifelong PTSD, isn't it, for that particular account exec who got waterboarded?
Yeah, I'm not particularly proud of that one. But we've done some crazy stuff. We bought an actor, I think it was for I Can't Believe It's Not Butter, and the whole campaign was about PRing. It was, I can't really remember. They used lookalikes in their ads. So there was like an Ozzy Osbourne lookalike. And so we thought for the pitch, which was all about how you're going to make this ad famous, we would put a fake PR person in the room. And then they were an actor, and they'd start getting increasingly weird and eccentric throughout the pitch. And then at the end, we'd reveal, I can't believe I'm not actually a PR. But they ended up being quite good, and the client really liked them and wanted them to be on the account. So that was a strange one. I'm not sure what that said about the rest of the community. So I've done loads. I mean, I've probably pitched, I wouldn't even want to count, but it's definitely got to be in the thousands in terms of pitches I've done. So there's been plenty of good ones, plenty of bad ones. And I think, one of the things about working in this industry, you do become quite resilient. So you brush off a pitch win or a pitch loss relatively quickly and just move on to the next one.
So Andrew's pitch stories were just brilliant, weren't they? He had so many amazing stories, and I feel like he didn't win the business, did he, in the end? I think he's probably quite lucky for that not to become an HR issue as well, but different time. The hedonistic world of late 90s PR agencies, but yeah, amazing. And some of the other stuff he did in pitches as well was just amazing. And what an agency he ran at the back in the day.
Oh yeah, definitely. Andrew's Sir Alan Sugar's PR man, and he's done some amazing. They were pitching in a waltzer, pitching in an ambulance, and we had a guy the other day on the show who won a lot of pitches, and his idea was, which hasn't made the top 5, but this was brilliant. He brought along a magician to do him a load of magic in the middle of a pitch, and everyone just looked at him and if he was pretending to be a member of staff, and he just said, "Yeah,
it didn't go down well, did it?"
Be a bit of pitch theatre. No, it didn't. No, the client just thought he wasn't good at all, so it didn't go down well. And sometimes they work.
There's
sometimes
actually
they don't. You've got to be creative.
And we're actually looking at a kind of a sub-strand of the show about pitch nightmares, aren't we? So probably half of our guests have a pitch nightmare story, either from the point of view of the agency or the point of view of the client. And there's all sorts of amazing stories. And again, a lot of them ring true from our own experience.
So our runner-up at number 2, have you ever wondered what the most expensive customer acquisition cost in history looks like? Futurist Tom Goodwin was part of a massive brand campaign that was so complex, it resulted in a cost per acquisition of over 400,000 per person. As he points out, they could have paid Kylie Minogue to sing in everyone's living room for this. So let's get into this clip and hear what Tom's got to say. So our show is all about, fuck-ups and failures. And we basically get people to...
Come to the right place.
Well, we've had enough. People share... This is like where you can get it off your chest about something you've made a mistake and what you learned from it. So do you have any that you've made in what you do?
I've got millions. I mean, people worry a lot. I've been fired like a lot of times, like maybe 4 or 5 times. And normally it's nothing like as personal as people think. Probably one of my biggest failings. I was working on a campaign for Nokia to launch a music service. So this was probably 2007. And we'd sort of procured the rights to like Kylie Minogue's new album that was going to be exclusively available. And we spent probably £15 million on media and technology and IP, and I think 37 people downloaded the particular app that we were trying to push at the time. So on a sort of what's it called, CPO, on a sort of cost per acquisition basis, we could have sort of arranged like a private living room performance of Kylie Minogue for every single person that wanted it. I would say, like, I'm very happy to accept when I've been an idiot. In this particular case, I wasn't an idiot. I actually did tell the client quite a lot of times, look, this isn't really how it's going to work. Most people who see this TV ad are not going to be able to download this because they don't have the right type of Nokia handset. But it's a good example, really, I think, of understanding quite how big companies work and how their finance works. And, someone had made the business case and they couldn't sort of accept it wasn't going to work. But yeah, I make mistakes all the time. The most important thing is to not do the same mistake twice. The most important thing is to kind of really, understand what you learn about yourself and the world every time you do it. But yeah, I'm quite idiotic, and I make quite a lot of mistakes.
I'd love to have been a fly on the wall when you had to have that ROI discussion about 15 million for 37 downloads.
You'd have been better off with bags of £10,000, just giving them to people walking in the street and asking them to download the app, and you'd have got a better return on that activity.
It's completely true, and yeah, it just goes to show, accountability is a good thing.
It reminds me of the era when the internet first came out, like not when it first came out, but when people started to use it, and there was the .com boom, and I was going into pitches, and it was right at the beginning of my career, and people were saying, so what we're going to do is we're going to build a website, and potentially 60 billion or however many billion people can come and land on it, and I kept thinking, this is all this money is going to this. This just doesn't make any sense. Aren't they going to have to find it first? Which sounds very similar to your app scenario.
I think, we do not have simple jobs by any means, but I think quite often we make them a lot more complicated than they need to be. And I think you're sort of thinking where you're saying, only this many people might actually see it, so it's unrealistic to expect that. Or, if you were a normal human being, how would you respond to this? I actually think taking a bit of a step back, relaxing a little bit and trying to approach these things from a common sense perspective is quite often the best way to succeed. I'm doing a lot of work with a car company at the moment where they're figuring out that almost all of their search spend is going on terms that probably people would have ended up on the website without clicking. So all you're doing is taking people that are already very interested and sort of taking credit for making them, become interested, even though clearly they already were. And often you have these cultures of specialisms and sort of expertise and spreadsheets, and people can sit in meetings and talk about numbers and ratios, and everyone has the goal of making that number as big as it can be. And I think it's really important to just take a step back. Maybe that doesn't matter. Maybe there's something much more fundamental that we can solve instead.
So I did the maths while we were watching that clip. It's 405,000 for 400. So I did the math. I can't even, such That's a big number. I can't even read it. It's £405,000 per lead. So can you imagine being in the kind of the campaign wrap-up meeting, Chris, and presenting that to the client? Good news is we've got 37 leads, cost per acquisition of just over £400,000 a lead.
But, well, and to the client, I'd have to go, and that's not even leads. That's just downloads.
Just
that's
downloads.
Not even leads. That's terrible. It's like the worst campaign of all time. Fair play to him for sharing that. I read a lot of Tom's stuff online, so I really appreciate him coming on and talking about that. I don't think I've ever had a campaign as bad ROI as that. And we did become everyone became a little bit obsessed with ROI, but I think you probably could bin the ROI of that campaign. So then, in at number one, we have the diplomatic imposter incident with Ant Cousins, friend of the show, and will be coming on the show again very soon to tell more stories because he's full of them. But this one that takes number one quite easily for me. It's the most watched video on YouTube of ours. And the most popular podcast that we've had downloaded as well. So, taking the spot at number one, what would you do if you were working in a actual war zone and suddenly found yourself shoved in front of the world's media, live on air, because everyone thinks you're the Prime Minister of Britain? Ant Cousins didn't have time to think. He just had to pretend that he was David Cameron. And this is what happened.
at the time, right, everyone asked me, what do you do for a living? And I was like, I work for the Ministry of Defence. Like, oh, so you're James Bond. I was like, no. Like, one, he works for the Foreign Office. But two, I'm closer to Johnny English than James Bond. Like, none of my stories are cool.
Mr. Bean.
James Bond wasn't a PR man anyway, was he?
No, not really.
James Bond in PR. In Moncton, yeah.
So one of the things was we had David Cameron coming out for a visit. Right, to Afghanistan. And we'd booked a live satellite link up, and we've got a load of journalists in from Kabul down to Lashkar in Helmand province, which is where I was based, which is a long and arduous journey, a risky journey for those journalists to take. But we had them coming down for a member of British Parliament, because this was just before he was Prime Minister. Right, so he's still a member of Parliament at the time. So he comes out, and we booked the slot, we got the tent, all the journalists are in there, they're ready to go. The satellite link up's booked for live broadcast across Afghanistan. And I'm walking with David Cameron to the tent, and I'm about to brief him on like the lines just to make sure he remembers. It was all about civilian casualties. It was a really serious topic.
Yeah.
And then on the way to the tent, he's like, I haven't got time for this. I've got to do these other things instead. And I was like, okay. So
what's a git?
So I'm like, well, okay, how do I deal with that? How do I deal with that? So I walked into the tent and I called across the interpreter, and I bring her across. I said, like, David Cameron isn't coming. And he's like looking at fear in my eyes because he's been dealing with a journalist this whole time.
Yeah.
And then because Afghan journalists, they just rush from the stations they're at, grab the cameras, grab the mics, they come to the flap of the tent, right? And they just, cameras are in my face, red lights are on, mics are in my face, and I'm like, oh, they think I'm David Cameron. So I tell the interpreter, tell them I'm not David Cameron. And he's like, just zero. Like, he just starts interpreting their questions. I'm like, so I've got two choices now, right? I either empty chair us and walk away, and the headline is David Cameron walks away and blanks a bunch of journalists asking difficult questions.
Which is what he did, just to be clear.
Which is what I didn't do. So what I made up for is just did the interview. Like, and I think I knew the lines,
So did they quote you as David Cameron says?
So when I got back to my desk, there were a few red lights on the phone. The ticker David Cameron was there.
And how did you get? Did you just say terrible misunderstanding? I did explain myself.
I think I just left it, because I think we all kind of to Afghans is kind of like the reason they thought I was, even though I had a beard and a shaved head, they still thought I was David Cameron. I'm like, they're not going to. It doesn't matter.
That's the image I've got of David.
I delivered the lines.
So in his new role as Foreign Secretary, next time he goes out there, there's going to be a lot of confusion. He's going to do an interview, and everyone's going to say, "This isn't David Cameron."
This isn't David Cameron. I remember.
Where's that?
Yeah.
You've aged badly, David. Anyway.
Okay, so
thanks for that.
Great story. Right, well, I don't even know where to go with this, because the actually off camera, when he was telling us how many media were there, it wasn't just, it was the world's media that thought he was David Cameron. Fair play to him, but I mean, I don't know. I don't even know whether should he have said he wasn't David Cameron.
I think, like all good PR people, he found a way and he styled it out, didn't he? Like a true pro. And I don't think there was actually any consequences of it, was there? I think there was. I think it was accepted by the majority of the people in the room, wasn't it? And he got away with it. It must have given him a few sleepless nights after that.
Oh, I mean, I don't even know how he got the balls to do that. Fair play to him. Like a great mistake. But I mean, I felt a bit bad for him. Like, David Cameron just went, "No, I'm not doing it," and walked off. And obviously, David Cameron worked in PR, allegedly. Walked off, allegedly, close brackets. And he worked in PR before he was in as Prime Minister, so he obviously knew the amount of pressure that Ant would be under. But shocking, truly shocking. Well deserved to be number one. Any others that didn't make the cut that you can think of, Will, that you would have liked to, you thought that would need a bit of recognition in the top 7 or 8?
Well, there's been a few, hasn't there? I mean, some of the stories about people that are brave enough to start businesses and catastrophically went wrong, plowed a lot of their own money into it. I think somebody actually remortgaged their house to try and save their business. They were certainly interesting stories. But then on the other side of it, I think some of the some of the funniest stories, particularly about some of the wild and crazy PR stunts people have pulled over the years, have been pretty entertaining. I'm trying to think of some specifics, actually.
What about Mark Terry Lush, who accidentally flew a plane after he'd just passed his pilot's license into the Top Gun air zone? That was quite a good one. That's actually our most popular short on YouTube.
That was a good one, and we were trying to push him on some of the stories behind the kind of the hedonistic 90s London PR scene, weren't we? And what it was like working on the lads mags and things, and he certainly had a few more stories in the locker, didn't he?
Yeah, he did, but I don't think they could have made the podcast.
So another one, Chris, that grabbed my attention was Jerry White, who came on the show a few months ago, and he was involved in the kind of digital web industry, wasn't he? And he actually admitted to breaking the entire BBC homepage for about 2 or 3 minutes, didn't he? Which again, BBC homepage being, it must be the most visited website or one of the most visited websites in the UK, and he basically broke it, didn't he?
Yeah, he got the clown on fire, didn't he, to come on the screen that used to be on the Play School standby sign. He actually did that, which I thought was brilliant. And then I found the graphic and sent it to him. And he's like, "Yeah, that's it," because he always called it the clown on fire,
just to trigger him.
The Play School clown. There's another one I've just remembered as well that was brilliant, which was. Neville Hobson came on the show and talked about when he was doing some work and he accidentally clicked publish with some financial results and published them on the London Stock Exchange, which can affect share prices.
Oh my God, that one
really did scare the living shit out
of me. Yes, some of these actually give me anxiety because I could. You can see how easily some of these could be done, couldn't you? And when you're talking about affecting potential global stock share prices, it's absolutely wild.
Yeah. So not bad. We have got so many. There's so many, and what we do is every Thursday we publish a segment which is the mistake from each show, and we've got enough at the moment to carry on all the way till I think they're going until October because we produce a mistake every Thursday. So Tuesday's our main episode day. Thursday's our mistake day. If you've got a mistake that you would like to share on within the next 100 episodes of Embracing Marketing Mistakes, drop us a line to podcast@prohibitionpr.co.uk and we will see if we can get you on the show because we'd love to hear any mistakes that you've got. Just be open and honest. Everybody else is. It's really useful. So thanks for listening, everybody. Have you got any final words, Will, to our listeners who've stayed with us?
Well, it's I think there's real value in sharing mistakes, isn't there? I think they're entertaining and they make us laugh sometimes, but the whole point of mistakes is if you're not making mistakes, you're not pushing yourself hard enough, and making mistakes and being able to learn from them is incredibly important, isn't it? And we hope that by sharing other people's mistakes, of course, we want to entertain people, but people can also learn from them as well. So yeah, fantastically useful, and it's just so great that people are sharing their stories with us like this.
Yeah, mistakes breed creativity. I believe that's what people say. If you made a mistake, it shows that you're pushing the boundary. If you don't make any mistake, if you're the lucky listener out there that's listening to this thinking, I've never made any, well, then you're wrong because everybody has. Everybody has, and there's nothing wrong with being honest, I think. It's actually refreshing. So if you have, feel free to send them in. If you don't want us to name you, then that's fine. Let us know. We can do anonymous mistakes. That'd be good. Or share someone else's mistakes. Hell, we're well up for a laugh. Anyway, right. Well, we'll see you on the other side. So thanks for 100 episodes. Thanks for listening. And we'll see you next week. Thank you.